So let's talk a bit about sales skills. Now, how do you know when you're not in alignment with what's happening with the sales force? Well, probably frustrated by looking at your P&L and going, why aren't we meeting quotas? The sales force is frustrated because they're not meeting the margins, which they may be compensated on. That begs the question, what's missing? So what skill sets would you say, John, are missing from our current sales reps? And you gave a huge list from, automation and big data and sized some of the opportunity there. If the people who are listening to this recording are thinking, I want a piece of that, but do I have the right sales skills? Do I have the right sales force? What are your thoughts on that?
Just from a sales skills experience, I would say two things. Number one would be research, and number two would be being able to have conversation at different levels. So what I mean by research is, there's two ways to approach any opportunity or any customer, and that is, find out, what's their budget. What do you have budgeted for next year? What are you working on? That's all incremental. That's, again, kind of a normal table stakes way of approaching accounts, and quite frankly, the easy way. Another way is zero-based budgeting. So in other words, what you're doing is doing research to find out what is the actual business working on, and what are some of the projects, or what are some of the areas that you can actually help without a budget being in place. So in other words, you're actually in a position to create the budget or create the the return on investment or whatnot to help that budget being created for that new project. So that research usually puts you into different conversations with different audiences, and at the same time, it enables you to be a much sooner in the sale. So you're not quote number two, quote number three, or column fodder, as I like to call it. You're going to be there early. You're going to have higher level strategic conversations, and you're actually going to be in control over that opportunity and account versus incremental, which I find the vast majority of account managers are still doing.
Interesting. So here's the challenge. One of the statistics that I have shared in the podcasts that we send out is that the customer is going on websites, which is why my marketing fear for IT companies is so prevalent, is that they're going online and they're evaluating solutions. They're doing their research from, whatever research companies are out there that are providing data. They're looking at trends, and they're pretty much, data, Forrester says, 90% of the way through the sales cycle before they even call a rep. So what's a strategy for helping the rep? Is that a relationship, a rapport issue, or are there skills or ways? And I think there's a few people on the phone that will probably have comments on this. I'll let you go first, John. Are there ways to get them entered in earlier to the sales cycle, despite Forrester's research?
Yes, absolutely. And that is, research really is the one key avenue that a lot of account managers are going to need to focus on. It's interesting. I do a lot of training from an account manager perspective as well, and a lot of customers still ask for, I really want to get my account managers to a consultative selling approach. And, I don't want to be mean, but, I want to say, that's kind of 1995.
Yes.
That's really table stakes, and that's where you should have been literally 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So now, what we really need our account managers to do is work from the goal backwards, or what a lot of people call today the business outcomes backwards. To find out what are the business outcomes, what are the strategic goals of the company or just a department to start with. In healthcare, what about ER? What are some of the strategic goals? So if they work from that backwards, they're going to be, again, very early in the opportunity. They are going to be really leading the conversation in many areas. And I'll just give you one quick example. I had a great experience some years ago with somebody who actually wanted to sell us training, and us sales training. And it was interesting, but that person spent almost 3 months coming to us occasionally, asking us questions, what are our goals, what are our verticals, where do we want to improve. Quite frankly, after 2 months, he was getting to be a little bit of a pain. But I'll tell you, 3 months later, he came back and, here's your goals, here's how I can actually see you achieving them, here's, in a worst case scenario, that the percentage I think I can directly affect you, here's the cost, and your return on investment is 6 months. I mean, you can't say no to those types of conversations. So that's how account managers can be early, really set the stage, really increase not just their revenue, but also profitability, because you're not in a knife fighting game when you're at that level.
Right, right. Good point. What about the folks on the call? Does anyone want to speak to what sales skills? So if you could look at a sales force and determine what's the one skill that you think sales reps are missing that could make a significant difference in service revenue growth, as an example.
Hi, it's Jim from Promise. So I would double down on the research answer. If you look at the decision-making process that most senior managers go through, and the part of that they are self-educating via the web, by the time they get to the rep, they're probably in the 6th or 7th step of a 10-step process.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at it and you say, well, what's the first question the senior executive is asking? You know, something happens, an event happens in their business, or something comes to their attention, and the first question they ask is, do I have a problem? And then the second question that they ask is, well, you know, maybe I have a problem, but it may or may not be worth investing further resources to investigate it further. Right? Is it a significant problem or an insignificant problem? And then once they go to the next step and they say, well, okay, well, if it's a significant problem, what are the different ways of solving this problem, right? We're not product or solution specific at this point. There might be, you know, 5 different conceptual ways of solving the problem. And then the next step beyond that is, okay, well, which approach, which solution method is probably the best fit for our budget, our organization, whatever my constraint criteria are. And then once they get to that step, now they're at, well, which vendor, you know, which group of vendors sells those types of solutions. That's when now they're in contact with the traditional sales rep. And as John pointed out, if you expect to make good margins and you want to have a good shot at that business, that's too late, right? That's too late at the point at which the customer is reaching out to you or you're in contact with that customer to have any influence over shaping that envisioned solution that the customers come to. And the really interesting part about that is oftentimes left to their own devices, of all the different approaches that the customer could take, oftentimes they come to the wrong conclusion. Like they come to a symptom addressing solution method as opposed to a root issue addressing method, because they don't have the subject matter expertise in this area that the well-educated, well-researched sales rep could bring to the table. But they need to get to that executive sooner in their process in order to have influence and shape that outcome. And when I say shape it, that's not, you know, like the evil salesperson kind of taking control over the customer's outcome. If you're a really good rep and you've really done your research as per the example that was just given, then you should be bringing tremendous value to the table and helping to educate the customer about, well, what is the best solution approach for solving the root problem that they really have, right? And oftentimes what you'll find with senior executives is they see the symptom and they're trying to address the symptom, but they don't have the subject matter expertise to really get to the upstream problem that really should be the thing that they should be looking at addressing. That's the value that a well-educated, well-researched rep could bring to the table.